And so once we've got that big picture stuff of what we want our school-based curriculum to look like, then the next step was then the co-construction of curriculum statements for each component of our school-based curriculum. And so we started off with inquiry learning and integration because that was already happening in it, and we just asked questions about, okay, well, first of all, what do we mean by inquiry learning? Are we all on the same page? You know, what do we mean by integration? Are we all on the same page? You know, and documenting that sort of stuff. And like, you know, because like one of the things we explored was that inquiry learning, and we talked about this the other day, didn't we, Rose? Inquiry learning isn't just one of those models that you put into practice in a school. It's something that you embed in everything you do, and there's a whole lot of inquiry models out there that you could be using. And like I tried to you know, impress on everybody that you should be able to select from a range of models and adapt and change those models to the circumstances that you're going. You know, so you can use Gwen Garwith's research model, you know, while you're doing some work around social sciences, you know what I mean. But then you use Calvin Smythe's Feeling For approach to social studies, which is another inquiry for a different social science topic, you know what I mean, or that you use the nature of science, you know, the investigation stuff, or the LISP stuff, you know, learning the science project stuff for, and like I spent a whole staff meeting going through them I just put together a whole lot of inquiry models from stuff we'd seen happening in Christchurch. You know, we went to, what's that school underneath the hills on the southern, is it Heathcote? Heathcote, yeah, it's a music guy. We used to be a music guy there.
Charles Levins.
That's it, yeah.
Charles is now at Avonhead.
Yeah, and they had an inquiry model there that they'd developed that we went, as a group of principals, we went and had a look at. So, and then there was a couple of other schools around the place, and I put them all together and said to our staff, you know, now what are the common components of all these inquiry models? And like we came up with 4 steps. Instead of having 12 stages of inquiry and, you know, like the tree model that they developed, you just had these 4 key things that we came up with, and you can apply them to your teaching on a daily basis, on a termly basis, you know, over the year or whatever, you know. So it was, and so this discussion was just aimed at developing shared understandings and beliefs about inquiry and integration, you know. And then we moved on to literacy and the same thing, you know. So because, you know, if you define literacy, you can go for miles, you know what I mean, from, you know, financial literacy to, you know, technological literacy, all those sort of things. So we're just saying, well, when we talk about literacy at Paroa School, what are we talking about? And basically we all agreed, you know, that it was reading, writing and speaking.
And as said before, you want that cognitive portability so that rather than teachers having to look up some definition, that they can actually talk about it valley. And we were all encouraged to develop a model that would be implemented in the school. And most of them have fallen over.
Yeah. But see, I don't view that as bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's something that's positive, because what it does initially, but as long as you look at it in the big picture, and it's like teaching kids how to use thinking skills and stuff like that, teachers need some scaffolding to begin with.
Yep, sure.
So those models provide some scaffolding for inquiry learning, don't they? You know what I mean? But the next step, and the hard part about it, is then transferring the ideas, what you know that you've got in your head about inquiry learning, into other areas, you know, and in other ways. But
if you, as you say, if teachers have the 3 or 4 or 5 ingredients of what is inquiry learning, then they can do it.
Yeah.
But if they have to refer to some model, you know,
and I think that is the problem, and it has come about through ICT.
It is.
That it's a model and it looks like this without them understanding the philosophy and the teaching and learning beliefs that underpins it all.
Yeah, and it is just based on research.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and which turns into just copy and pasting out of, you know, internet articles, doesn't it? Really. Yeah. Whereas, see, inquiry learning to me, and it always has been, is more along those lines of the LISP project, you know, where you're investigating and finding out and exploring and all those sorts of things. Yeah. And like it's still, my teachers here still haven't got that yet. Like they still, most of the inquiry stuff is research based, but yeah, there's a whole lot, you know, and it's just they're a bit weak in science, I think, you know what I mean, and they have a go at it, you know what I mean, but they don't really direct the kids towards asking questions that they can investigate rather than just research.
Right. For kids is, what are the kids doing and what is the teacher doing, and that's sort of brings out the discussion around what inquiry learning is all about, and that just has, you know, helps teachers really to understand it. But it's much more complex than some models sort of look like. If you